Hi everybody, and welcome to the tail end of summer in Australia. We do live in an upside down world, do we not? So, a few little bits and pieces. It's a shout out to the other Lena.Rodriguez out there who is a viewer. And also I just wanted to say, in general terms, I thought about this idea of doing she-wolves. So I've done a couple of she-wolves from the right, and today I'm going to do the DEMS. So that'll be Nancy Pelosi and Hillary Clinton, see what's happening with them. Okay. Just a little comment on the leaks out of the White House. There's been leaks since day one, and there's been a bit of argy-bargy out there about Kellyanne Conway being a leaker. But when you think about the leak over Trump congratulating Putin, he rings Putin in his office in the Kremlin. Why wouldn't it be the Russians leaking that just to stir the pot yet again? That's my theory on that one. Okay, so today off we go. We're dealing with very strong women, and I'll be most interested. So I'm going to do Hillary first. Oops. Queen of Swords. Hi, Hillary. Thanks for turning up. I'll just keep shuffling. Okay. What is going on for Hillary Clinton? What's Hillary going to do? Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton. All right. So let me change this viewing position for you. Now we have her in the middle as the Queen of Swords. I'll return to that. Yes. All right. Now, I'll continue from this point on in a little while. Okay, Queen of Swords. She's a lawyer, legal mind, very sharp mind. There's no doubting that. Hillary has a very good mind and very good intellect and a very finely honed sense of justice in the legal sense of doing things. Now, I am not someone who thinks Hillary is without blame or who doesn't criticize Hillary, but we're all flawed individuals. But I think this is implying in her professional legal self, she has this sense of justice. Hillary, for my personal taste, is far too much of a hawk, but that is just my comment. Okay, no surprises coming up here. In her immediate past, conflict, immense conflict with a lot of sources. I think there were people who got a bit overexposed to Hillary and went off her, but she was certainly subject to the most sustained, unprecedented campaign of viciousness. She's still embattled and embittered. Who could blame her for that? So, underneath her, at the root of this reading, this to me says, it's the new leader card, the messenger from the king, has had victories. She's had enormous victories. But also, I don't think she's going to attempt any leadership role. She's going to leave that to someone else. And by that I mean not just, of course, no one would think she's going to run for president again, but I don't see her taking on huge leadership roles in civil capacities. She'll be there. She's a public animal. but she's leaving the big stuff. Okay. She's taking refuge in the family. The family's probably happier than it's been in a long time. Who can look into anyone's marriage? She put up with a lot with Bill. But I think at this age and stage, she is getting more support from the marriage and her daughter and the grandchildren. And I think for a hard-working career woman, she's actually starting to appreciate that sort of genuine, unconditional support. Over the reading, she's still an inspiration for women. This is the women celebrating. She almost was the first woman president. Symbolically, she's still hugely important for women. She did spend a lot of energy and time and professional commitment in trying to make things better for women on the ground. But there was always a bit of a feeling with Hillary that you didn't want to get on the wrong side of her. But in terms of the overarching card and in terms of her legacy, she deserves official recognition for that. She, coming up, it's funny, this is in a position of slightly forward from now and it's looking back. It's right next to the card of being embattled and in her case embittered. She's not going to forget. Why should she? It was so close. She did get an extra 3 million votes. You're not going to shrug that off in a hurry. There you go. I'm not particularly surprised by that. How does she see herself? The moon. She really sees her own reputation and her own, because the moon is often about your reputation, as being tarnished. She really resents the conflicts and the battles. She is not, ever going to really let it go. She feels that hidden forces were stacked against her, and yes, they were. Is she a blameless soul? No, we don't think so. But at the same time, you can't get to be as high up in the food chain as she got and not have enemies. But mostly, those enemies were out of control and another dimension from what we'd seen before. Now we've sort of become desensitized and sort of used to the idea of the Russian bots and all of the stuff, but she paid the price for that. Yeah, and that's reinforcing that, the harvest. She felt she flogged a slot out for a lifetime. Was it enough? No, it wasn't. You'd have to agree. All right, poor old Hillary. The environment card, death card, not for a minute suggesting her literal death. It's not about that. It's the end of an era. It's right next to the new leader card. No, she's not coming back. And as I was just saying earlier, I'm not talking as a presidential candidate. She's not going to seek the limelight again. Whereas I think for some time she might have been. The Queen of Swords finds it hard to let go, okay? She's used to being the queen in that political world. It's hard to let go of that degree of power, but it is the end of an era. She's going to take on challenges. She has had victories, which was very much to her credit. Certain things like she fought for healthcare for years and years. That will continue to carry on, but she won't be at the masthead. And further out, yeah, sums up the whole scenario, doesn't it really? She's disappointed. And you know what, she's angry. I think it's more, how could you not be disappointed with that scenario? I think she's furious. She's got to be careful, personally, Hillary, if you've suddenly become a tarot viewer. look after yourself, love. You know, we understand why you're so embittered by it, but living in a state of resentment and bitterness and what might have been is not good for your health. And I think she's still in an active stage of resentment. That's my overall feel with it. She hasn't moved on to the next stage of grieving or whatever it is that she's experiencing. And that's not altogether a surprise, but she has to let go. She really, really, really has to let go. Yeah. So let's see. We'll mix these up and we'll move on to Nancy. What's going to happen to Nancy Pelosi in this next round? Okay. Nancy Pelosi. Oops. Nancy Pelosi. Yes, we'll see. What have the cards got to say about Nancy? Right, before I go any further, I'm kind of surprised at the card of happy families in the middle here with Nancy. Don't forget, in earlier readings, I referred to this as the Republican card because it's the fantasy family. It's the Anglo parents and the two children and the rainbow view of the world. It's also parents, these two parents performing. We do professional parenting. So until I get further into the reading, I don't know if her family is suddenly going to take on huge importance in her life as it did in Hillary's reading. So I'm not quite sure what its full interpretation should be here. It could be that the family is saying, maybe it's time to move over, Nancy. Now, I don't want to overread it because I've said in other videos, and you know my opinion, I really think it's time for a new guard in the Democratic Party. So I don't want to overstress that, but it is interesting. It comes up at the core. Nostalgia. So on the one hand, she has the world. Now that is the karma card. It's also a crossroads card, huge new opportunities and all of that. But what's acting across that is nostalgia. So in other words, what these three cards say to me is, be careful not to make a decision based on the past. There's a new opportunity. Now, what that might be in Nancy Pelosi's case is maybe not being Speaker of the House, but another new and significant role. She's not going to fade, so we'll see what else comes up in this. Cool. Queen of Pentacles. She is a wealthy woman in her own right. She's the right age to be the queen. So I am going to say, for now, early in the reading, the Queen of Pentacles. Now, the Queen of Pentacles, because it's so often hideous and corrupt people like Rebecca Mercer, we forget the more positive view of the Queen of Pentacles. So she is someone who wants to make sure the public or people are financially secure. She does understand that is philosophically and ideologically what drives her. So even though she's got personal wealth and she doesn't have to worry about money, she's still enough of a Democrat to understand many people do. Pentacles, as it's easy to forget too because we're dealing so much with money in these readings, but also is ruling the body, the physical body. And I think that's her push in the healthcare fight as well. So I see this as the good Queen of Pentacles who wants people to be healthy and have a decent living. So for those of you who are learning tarot, do be careful, because it's easy to get, when you read a lot of these negative people, it's easy to drift to the negative end of interpretations. So it's kind of refreshing in a way to see the Queen of Pentacles in that role. In the recent past, yeah, well, of course. So things are happening fast. Duh! You know, she, like everyone else, you know, twice a day a tweet comes through and the world changes. So this is, let's look at that. That's a fun interpretation of the Eight of Wands, is Donald Trump's tweets. This barrage of ridiculous inanity that comes forth on a daily basis, spewing from his fingertips. I'm interpreting that as Trump tweets. Nice. At the top of her reading, the Queen of Cups. This is one strong lady. Okay, Queen and Queen. So, Pentacles, money in the body. Cups, emotions, perceptions, intuition. Now again, she's hardline in her own way, so you don't see her as emotional in the warm and fuzzy, gooey way, but emotional in a way of adult comprehension of the emotional story, right? Now, there's some things to be wary of here with the Queen of Cups, or what I refer to sometimes as the Lady Di card. The figure actually looks like Lady Diana. She embodies female attributes and female understanding of emotions, but her feet are on a very small and rocky beach, and there's the huge emotional ocean out here. In other words, emotionally on edge. Also, the cup is the only cup with a lid on it. So when I look at the two queens, what I'm seeing for Nancy is she's struggling a bit to keep her emotions in check. That would not be surprising with the barrage of tweets. So, she's struggling with her emotions more than certainly I would have thought. So, coming up shortly, the Apprentice card. She is so not the Apprentice. She has had an entire successful career in a very high position and done it very competently and well. I'm thinking this is, I hope it is, she's training up an apprentice. I really hope that's what is being indicated here. Not short of ego, our Nancy. She knows that she is a powerhouse because we have another queen. The Queen of Wands. So how does she see herself? I've described her in her Queen of Pentacles identity. I've described her with her emotional profile and struggling. How does she see herself? This is, again, because we all see ourselves positively through our own ego lens, the ultimate plus of the Queen of Wands. The woman with power, she has the staff, she's on the throne. She's a commanding person. Wands are fire. She's up for the fight. I very much doubt whether she will go anywhere in the next year or so. We'd have to do more updated readings. I suspect, I'm more firmly sure now, the family are going, Mum, Mum. But she is up for the fight. She's there for the next round, by which I mean the midterms. Yep, and across that, Judgment. So, what does the Judgment card mean in relation to Nancy Pelosi? Does it mean that she will be judged, in the sense if she goes up as the speaker in the next round, she will be judged by the American people? Or is it her waiting for the judgment of Trump and the vindication of winning the midterms, which outside of a physical tsunami and an absolute debacle, you'd have to think the midterms were looking pretty secure. As you know, I have my own hesitations about the Democrats after the midterms. Judgment for Nancy, could be both. Could be both. People are going, look, we're going to vote against Trump, we're going to vote you in, but we're not that happy with Nancy anymore. Or it could be the vindication, people rising up out of their coffins, you will note, to vote out Trump. And she, as the Queen, will be there to see it. Okay. So if you have a particular opinion on that, get back to me. After the midterms, I think she will retreat, and rightly so. I don't mean withdraw completely, but even now, I'm thinking she is doing her best to retreat. In other words, let Trump go out and implode. Don't try and steer it with all this Queen-like energy. I think she's being advised to say, you know what, keep your mouth shut, Nancy, just ride it out. A bit of retreat here. That could be the advice from the family too. After this is short-term outcome, and for me, short-term outcomes means after the midterms, she has a big decision to make. A big decision. Because what the midterms will reveal, there will be candidates who distance themselves from Pelosi in order to win. She has to, as a political animal, she has to wear that to some extent, right? She has to be responsible, even if she doesn't feel it's just, to understand that. She has to decide what her own career, because she's in her 70s, is going to look like. But also it's a crossroads, the two swords, the two paths for the Democratic Party. So a bit further out, the world. So we had the card of karma, Wheel of Fortune. They're very similar cards, right? I think I even called it the world earlier, and I meant Wheel of Fortune. This is the destiny card. This is also a destiny card. But the world has another meaning, the world card, which is completion, end of a cycle. So the world will be very keenly watching what happens in these midterms. It is an extremely powerful card. It's a major arcana card. But it could well be the end of a cycle there. Well, Nancy Pelosi, I take my hat off to you for all the work you've done, and good luck in the midterms. See you guys soon. Thanks for all your comments. I've replied to heaps of them if you go to the home page and then discussion. Okay, see you soon.